Okay, I know what you're thinking. Grip, where you been? I'll get into that a little later. Let's just say I've been busy with doing some other things, but I wanted to take some time to do a video. Today's topic is going to be shed antlers, and I want to go over the reasons why I enjoy and look forward to looking for shed antlers and why I advocate looking for shed antlers. So let's go ahead and roll that intro. All right. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody for coming back here to the Grips Archery channel. Welcome to this next video. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about what I've been doing. I mentioned earlier I've been busy. So first and foremost, I'm not retired yet. I'm still teaching. I'm still force feeding the youth of the community their education. But I've been trying to fill tags, which I did. I did have a fairly good season. I ended up taking a good buck in gun season. He was an 8-pointer that I deemed it. I'm pretty sure he was a 4-year-old. Antler wise, he was no mega buck, but he was on my list of, hey, if I get a chance, I'm gonna whack this dude. Was he the best scoring buck that was out there? No. Yeah, everybody wants to kill a monster, but at this point in my life, with 30 some years of pursuing these animals, I'm more inclined to just have a good hunt. And this guy uh, came in. I was down on the ground with my rifle, and he came in behind me, and I thought for sure he was going to peg me. He walked in. I didn't have a shot. It was real thick, and he came from the thick area behind me, and he crossed the fence. I'm down was in a fence row on this field edge, and he crossed the fence about 12 yards from where I was. And I was just looking at him. We were eye to eye, and I thought, he's got me. And he looked right past me, and he walked through the real thick autumn olive, and he came out into the field. And as he was making his way across the field, I grabbed my rifle, and by the time he reached the far side, it was about a 92-yard shot. The 350 legend put him down. So it's a great hunt. It's a good 8-pointer. I was happy to take him, and more importantly, I was happy to put that meat in the freezer. But the other thing that I've been working on is, and for those of you who are fans to the channel, you know that I have written books. Um, these are my two books. My first book, What Did You Say? Funny Things My Students Have Said over the first half of my career, and then my book, Behind the Riser, 30 plus years of bow hunting and competitive archery stories. I not only wrote those books, but I recorded them into audiobooks. And since I went ahead and have the equipment to do that, I thought, why not record? Why not record audiobooks for other authors? So I auditioned and got a book job. This book is out there. It's called Whatevs, From Foolishness to Fondness. It's a great book. It's available. Basically, it's a book of stories about this guy as a kid growing up in a little town in Texas, and it was a great read. And that book is now been approved and is up and running. And I just submitted a second book, my first fiction book, and it is up for review. I have completed all the work, recorded the whole book, all 34 chapters, and it's about Navy SEALs and the possibility of World War III and blah, blah, blah. It's a good book. It's a really fun read as well. And so I've just sent that to the author, and he's reviewing it. And it's now up to him whether or not he will approve or he wants changes or anything done. So I'm waiting to hear back from him. So hopefully that book that book will be available. So that's what I've been doing. I've been teaching. I've been trying to fill tags. I actually got in a couple. I got in a good rabbit hunt with some buddies, which again, if you've read my book, that's where I cut my teeth as a youth. That's how I came up hunting rabbits with my father. So it was good. It's always good to get back and hear those beagles work, and so that's what I've been doing. But enough of that. Let's get into the nuts and bolts of this video. So I have a previous video. I don't think it gets a lot of traction anymore. I did it years ago on shed hunting and the importance of shed hunting. And I think it was the three reasons why I think all bow hunters, all deer hunters should shed hunt. But a few years ago, I was writing articles for an online magazine company, and then they had a change in some of their management, and the articles went to videos, and I did a few videos for them, and one of them was the shed hunting video, and I recorded it many pounds ago. It was much lighter, uh, pre-COVID weight gain, but did that video, and I had a cheap old Sony Handycam, and it was a very basic video. So I kind of wanted to redo that video and talk a little bit about the importance of shed hunting. So, as I'm sure many, if not all of you are aware, that white-tailed deer shed their antlers, and these are antlers, and there is a difference between antler and horn. Antler is bony material. Horn is keratin. Keratin is the same stuff that's in your hair and fingernails. Keratin is also in your skin cells. I'm gonna get a little biological. I'm gonna get a little anatomy, zoology teacher on you. It's a waterproofing agent. It's not so much to keep water out, but more importantly, it helps keep water in our bodies so we don't dehydrate and we just evaporate water off of our bodies into the environment. And it's the same thing. Rhino horn, goats, your sheep, buffalo. That's all horn. Some horn are straight keratinized material. Other animals have, like a pronghorn antelope, for example. They have a bony core with a keratinized sheath, and they will shed that sheath. But antler is bone, and if you know anything about skeletal structure, um, our bone material, it has your bone tissue is arranged in two basic formats, and we have compact bone and we have spongy bone, and the outsides of our bones are compact bone. The shaft of our long bones, known as the diaphysis of our bones, are compact bone, but the epiphyses, or the ends of the bones, have spongy bone. And if you look at the base of the antler, it is covered in compact bone, and the middle is spongy bone. And if you were to look inside the head of our femur, for example, that's all spongy bone. And as this material grows, this bony material grows, and of course, we all know that at the end of the winter or early spring, the buck will shed his antlers. And in essence, they get a very thin, localized area of osteoporosis, and this bone becomes very thin. Osteoporosis, of course, osteo means bone, porosis, porousness. The bone becomes very porous. The spongy bone gets thinner and weaker, and eventually gravity wins and breaks the bone off. And if you've ever seen a very fresh shed, there will be blood on the base. And if you've ever seen a buck that has just recently shed, he has a wound. He has a bloody wound on his head at that base or pedestal, and it will scab over and heal. And of course, he starts to grow his new material. So that's it's one of those little science teacher, little things when people call antlers horns. Everybody does it, but anyway, that's kind of beside the point. That's a little beside the point. So let's move into why I really enjoy hunting for shed antlers and why I advocate hunting for shed antlers. All right, so this guy I'm holding right here, this is one I just found last weekend. This buck, I am fairly certain on the day I shot the buck that I got, the 8-pointer that I shot this year, I'm pretty sure this guy, who is a younger buck, might even score a little better than the one I ended up shooting, but he's a little wider. But he's a younger buck. I think he's just a 3-year-old, and he actually gave me a shot that morning, and I let him go. And then later on that morning, the buck that I shot came in. So it's kind of cool that we've had this history, and I found this antler. But I think he's kind of a young up and comer. I think he's going to be a good deer. One of the reasons, and that I think it's important to look for antlers, is it is a good way to get out there and help with your inventory and to get in some good intel and scouting information. When you're out there in the late season, there's almost no greenery or vegetation. Sign is a lot easier to see. Trails are highly visible due to the just deer have a tendency to kind of, as they say up north, they yard up. They have a tendency to get together and in the late season because there's not a lot of food, so they're all going to be basically taking advantage of the same limited food sources that are out there. So a lot of times they, especially the doe groups, they travel together, and a lot of these trails are going to be highly visible in this time of year due to the ground around here. The ground freezes in this time of year. You know, here in this part of the state, we could have snow on one day and it be 60 degrees 2 days later. So that constant thaw and freeze of the ground, it gets soft and spongy, and it just really aids in the being able to see those trails, and they stand out, and it really gives you intel onto what to do for your next hunting season. And inevitably, when and as I'm walking around, you have a tendency, looking for sheds, you'll have a tendency to go in areas that you normally aren't going to walk through during the hunting season. You want to stay out of those areas because you're worried about bumping deer and spooking deer and so on. But, in February and March, who cares? So you'll go into a lot of areas that you have not gone into possibly before, and it gives you a chance to get a lot of intel. Just this last week, right before I found this antler, I found a new spot that I'm going to set up to one of the few on that farm that I hunt that was whacked by that tornado that I've talked about before. I actually found an old maple tree that is still there, and I don't know why I haven't. Probably because I've never gone into this area. It's thick, and I never even thought it was possible to hunt in there. But this one lone maple is surrounded by poplar and sycamore saplings, and there's a good set of heavy trails that go right through that area. And I think it's going to be one of my ambush spots. I think I'm going to get up in that maple, throw a couple sticks and a platform, and I think I'm going to saddle hunt out of that tree. And it'll be one of the few places that I can get in a tree on that farm. So I was pretty excited about that. So the act of covering all of that land, walking back and forth to get your antlers, to try to find those antlers, it's a great opportunity to scout and get some good intel on the local whitetail population in your area. One of the other side benefits is that it's you're in February and March. I don't know about you guys, but for me, that's kind of the blah doldrum kind of the year. It's you're not quite into turkey season yet, and deer season is over. If you're getting into competitive archery, you might be starting to dust off your 3D setup or thinking about shooting 3D or whatever. You've been shooting some indoor spots, but for me, it's just kind of a sluggish time of year, and it's just good to get out there and put my boots on and go out there and just walk and get some good exercise and just be out in the woods. It's a great way. If you have young kids, get them out there, and let them, they don't have to be quiet. One of the big things, if you have young children and you're trying to teach them about hunting deer, you take a 7-year-old out there and you want that 7-year, that's hard to get a 7-year-old to be quiet, to be still and be quiet. I can remember taking my son, and I took juice boxes and snacks and coloring books and all kinds of stuff for them to play with in the blind. But when you take your kids out there and you're shed hunting, and it doesn't matter. They can run around, they can splash in the creek, do whatever. It gives them a chance to get out and experience the woods and experience nature. Gets an opportunity for them to quit looking at a screen. It's just a great activity for you and your children. And you're going to walk a lot, and that's everybody. That's a great way to get some exercise and get out there. It's just a great fun activity. And with a little bit of planning, if you already have a few antlers, you can go out there first and strategically place a couple antlers for your kids to find, and that'll help keep them interested. Again, that's going to take a little bit of forethought and planning, but it is something that you could do to help keep them interested. So the other part is antlers are just cool. I have been, probably for the last 15 years, I've been pretty actively. I would consider myself a shed hunter. When I was a young man, I didn't really put a lot of effort into it. I'd go out once or twice, and would get discouraged and whatnot. But as I have mellowed with age, I don't mind going out there and walking around. And if I get shut out, I get shut out. At least I had a good day in the woods. But here's a few that I've managed to collect over the years. So you can see I've had some success, and they're just cool. Most of these I can tell you. I remember this one, this 8. I know exactly where I found that one. I had my son with me, and it's a fond memory. But they're just cool, and you can do all kinds of stuff with them. So if you're fortunate enough, things that I have done, I got a hold of this matching set, and this is probably one of my best sets that I have. And I thought, I'm not going to have these, in a box or just laying around. I'm gonna display these. So I bought one of those Mountain Mike plastic skulls, and so I put those antlers on that plastic skull, and I have them displayed. Something else that I've done is I found an old one that was chewed up by squirrels, and I made a door handle on my barn door that is in my half-finished basement. I use on my little barn door to go from the finished to the unfinished side. Sorry about that. Some of you may notice background's a little different, and I changed my hat. My battery started to die during that last little part, and I was charging the battery, and I went upstairs, and of course, my wife had something to go do, and so I got sidetracked, and now it's a few days later, and through the magic of editing, it's half a second, but it's actually about 4 days later, and as luck would have it, in the meantime, I've gone out and I found another one This was just 2 days ago behind the house. Wasn't even looking for antlers. I was actually going out to find a cedar log. I've got a show at a buddy's church, an outdoorsman show coming up at a buddy's church, and I'm going to set up a booth, and I wanted this cedar log in the booth, and I thought I had a down cedar, and I went out to look, and there's golf balls laying around. I don't know who's hitting golf balls on the property, and boom, I saw this bright golf ball, and I walked up, and hey, look, there's an antler. So, sometimes you just get lucky. But anyway, as I was saying, things you can do with the antlers. I believe I left off with talking about displaying them on the mountain mics, and I have the chewed up one that I converted into a door handle for the barn door. But of course, probably one of the other most notable things that you can do with those antlers, especially if you get the different sides, is you can make rattling antlers. And these are my go-to antlers. And again, if you are fans of Behind the Riser, whether you have the book or the audio book or whatever, these antlers there's a good chance they're older than some of you watching this video. These antlers are 35, maybe 36 years old. I got them from my buddy who got me started into bow hunting, and I have rattled up a lot of deer with these antlers. And they will last me the rest of my bow hunting career because they work. Now, a secondary tip into this video: if you do decide to rattle with two antlers from opposite sides, especially with two from opposite sides, you need to make sure that you either cut them above the brow tine or you cut the brow tine off, because you got brow tines here, your thumbs are there, you are going to mash your thumbs together, and you put those brow tines in there, and you're going to have mangled thumbs. So make sure you cut the brow tines off if you're going to use your sheds for rattling antlers. Okay, so people are always asking, well, where do you go to find them? And can you give me any tips and any information about where to find them? I just walk, and I try to cover as much ground as possible, because ultimately you never know when that deer is going to shed his antlers. Statistically speaking, odds are they're more inclined to drop them where they're going to spend their most time. And so where are these bucks this time of year? They're spending the most time in bedding and in feeding areas. The problem with the bedding area is they're sitting still, and I don't think there's a big opportunity for them to drop an antler while they're laying still. I think motion, movement, jarring action, they shake. I think sometimes you'll see them, they'll shake real hard, and boom, boom, you'll see them on videos. They'll shake real hard, and that shaking knocks one off. It must itch is the only thing I can figure when you see that happening. And so I think as they get up out of their bed and they stretch, they do their thing, they probably shake, and that will be where they'll break one off. And if they're feeding, they're out and they're moving, and then that action can cause those antlers to fall off. So I will check the fields, and I know they'll be out there grazing in the grassy fields and the pastures. I don't really grid search, but I'll take a field and I will go around within 10 to 20 yards of the edge. It seems to be the bucks like this around here, at least. They'll spend a lot of time around the edge, and then I'll do a crisscross. I'll X the field, and that will basically, again, depending on the size of the field, that allows me to cover most of that field. And then I like to check, obviously I'm going to walk trails. I'm not going to blaze a lot of new trails, because deer aren't doing that. They're walking their trails. Now, your mature bucks aren't there. They have their trails, and, your doe trails are usually pretty heavy, and your big mature bucks aren't going to walk. As we know, they don't typically walk those same trails, but walking those trails are are areas where they're moving there, and those, again, that movement is going to jostle those around. I'd also, if you have the opportunity to have, if you have fences, if they don't have a gap in the fence that they can walk through, then they jump the fence. I have found that in more cases than not, this one, the one I had that I featured first, the one I had found out at the farm, the Tornado Farm, it was right next to a fence, and I think they jump a fence, and when they hit the ground, that that jarring motion of their bodies hitting the ground and kind of snapping up into their head and neck, and it might help that antler to fall. So those are really, as far as tips, that's about all I have for you. You got to put the miles in. You talk to anybody that has any experience hunting for sheds. It's miles of walking per antler. Some guys just seem to be naturally gifted at finding them. Maybe they have the right areas. I typically only find a few a year. I think the most I ever found in 1 year was maybe 5 or 6, and I'm not covering a lot of ground. I hunt private property, so that's pretty much where I look. So I'm only a couple hundred acres. So to come out with 5 antlers, 6 antlers on just a couple hundred acres, I never expect to do any more than that. Some years I don't find hardly anything, and other years I just seem to, every time I go outside, there's one laying there. So it kind of comes and goes. But whether I find one or not, I'm still out there getting good exercise. I'm scouting. I'm getting good intel, and I just enjoy it. And like I said earlier, as I have gotten older, I just relish those times that I'm able to get outside and walk around. As my parents get older, it kind of is a reality check. My dad can't do that stuff anymore, and it really kind of makes, hey, there's going to be a day where I'm not going to be able to get up and go out there and walk around and find antlers and hunt. And so, as I get older, I don't know when that day is. I know it's coming. I really want to get out there and enjoy those days while I still can. So get out there, get off the couch, put that phone down, go for a walk, do some postseason scouting, and find some antlers and enjoy nature in the woods, and be glad that we have it here for us to enjoy. Okay. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate the subscriptions for those of you that have recent joining to the channel. Don't forget my promo codes if you're interested in anything from JX3 Outdoors, Grip 14, Newcomb blinds, promo code Grip 14 for a discount. If you're looking for anything from Boning Archery, vanes, glue, nocks, points, any of those accessories, use this in your link. Use this link to go to Boning. Anything, it costs you nothing, but it does support the channel. And don't forget, if you're interested in a good book, Behind the Riser by me, audiobook, ebook, paperback, whatever. So as always, guys, again, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later.